Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be doing my spoiler-free review of House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the first book in her Crescent City series. So this is a book that I actually buddy read with my friend, and we were really much looking forward to this, and I was really excited for it as well. But basically the premise of this story, it's an urban fantasy series, and it takes place basically kind of like in our world in terms of like technology and all that, and it deals with a world that has humans, shifters, fae, angels, vampires, and they basically all coexist in the same world. And within this world there is very much a hierarchy in kind of which species are better than others, and that plays kind of a dominant role throughout the series. But this follows a story of a girl named Bryce, who is a half fae, half human girl who's in her early 20s, and she's kind of very much living the party girl lifestyle, and her whole life gets thrown upside down when her best friend is brutally murdered, and she's very much punished herself for that night, and she feels responsibility for that. And when her friend was murdered, there is this demon that came about, and there's been 2 years later, so there's been like a string of murders that are taking place that have a very similar MO. So she was tasked by the governor to kind of investigate these murders with a angel kind of detective as well named Hunt. And it kind of goes off from there. But like I said, I was really excited for this. I have like a love-hate relationship with Sarah J. Maas's books, but I felt like, especially going on, I'm filming this on the 27th, so this is kind of like the starting of quarantines for a lot of people in the United States and North America. So I felt like this was a book, like the perfect book to read. It's just under 800 pages, and I could just lose myself in this world, in this series. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and for the first 40 pages or so, I really struggled getting into this world and really understanding it, because it's literally just 40 pages straight of info dumping. You're trying to figure out the different terminology, the different like types of creatures in this world, the hierarchy, just like the terminology used in this world, and it was very hard to kind of get that. But once I got past like that 50 page hurdle, that's when the story really picks up, and it kind of goes off from there, and I really enjoyed that aspect in here. So I will say my favorite part of this was the storyline murder mystery aspect in here, and I think that part was really what really sucked me in to this book. I think it was just really interesting. Even now there's still so much that we don't know, and I really loved kind of figuring out the mystery behind these murders and kind of learning more about the characters and the lies and the secrets that are kind of expressed between these characters. I really enjoyed that. But with every Sarah J. Maas book, there's always problematic aspects in here, and I think that for me at least, it was with the relationship between Bryce and Hunt, and they were just very cringe-worthy aspects in here, and I really hate the way she writes her sex scenes. Like, I think they're just really cringy, and like using like apex is too much in like the terminology, and I literally is just like cringy. But there was like a lot of problematic aspects in here, that just with how they did their relationship and like some of the things that happened, like the lead up, and like one person's having a very vulnerable moment, but one person can't really see past it because all they're thinking about is their naked body, even though they're literally having like a mental breakdown. I was like, and yeah, like that part, like if you've read this you'll understand, and I think like there's aspects in here that are very problematic in terms of their relationship. And I was telling my friend when we were doing this, there's like one scene like where something, like they do something romantic and then something else happens, and I'm like, if that happened to me, like that'd be a total red flag. Like I don't care if they make it up to me after that, like that's like done, because it was more using sex as a manipulation. task, like a manipulation tool, and I am not a fan of that at all. And for me, I wasn't the biggest fan of the two main characters, Bryce and Hunt. Like Hunt, I can kind of see his standpoint, and I felt like maybe in the next one I'll maybe like him a little bit more, but there was something about Bryce in here that I just didn't like about her. Another thing too is they always talk about like her underwear like so much, and I'm like, why? It doesn't really add anything to the story, like her thongs and her bras, and I'm like, man, that's just too much description for things that aren't really necessary, and just trying to make this more edgy. Yeah, Bryce, there was just something about her that I didn't like. She was like the girl in high school, like the party girl in high school that never grew up, and there's something with Sarah J Maas's characters, especially like the female protagonists, that they're just like very much on their pedestal, and it's like the world is on their shoulders, and you know, it's such a burden, and like that was really irritating. And like Bryce did have some redeeming moments in here, but overall I wasn't her biggest fan. What I really enjoyed character-wise was the secondary characters. I felt like they were just so much more complex and dynamic than Bryce and Hunt. And I think like I loved the character Rune. I love the character Queen Hypoxia. Like those were probably my favorite characters, and I really love them so much more than Bryce and Hunt. And I know, like, you know, Bryce and Hunt are meant to be flawed, and you know, they're broken, and like that's what, you know, makes them bond with each other. But I think like those are really, there's a lot of problematic aspects in their characters and how they're portrayed and how the author describes them. So yeah, like I said, like I wasn't the biggest fan of the main characters. Maybe they'll grow on me. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of Farah in A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I really grew to love her. So that's when I'm like, okay, we'll see with the next one. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I didn't really know much going into it. This was my first time reading urban fantasy, and the first 40-50 pages did give me a bit of a hard time to kind of just really understand this world and kind of make sense of it. But once you get past that hurdle, it's, you know, it's a fun read, and it's a good book to kind of like lose yourself in, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, and with the coronavirus and COVID and all that stuff. Like it's kind of scary, so it's nice to have like this very atmospheric, kind of very layered world, kind of to lose yourself in. And this is like a guilty pleasure read. It's not like a amazing read, like the best book I've ever read in my entire life, but it's just a guilty pleasure read. It's problematic. It's like people who watch The Bachelor, it's like their guilty pleasure. I don't watch it, but it's like problematic in many ways. But I think it's kind of like that, where it's just like, you know, you take it as it is. I really like the storyline here. I like the mystery. I like the overarching kind of storyline that is probably going to continue on in the later series. So I'm still am excited for the next one. I really liked how it ended. So I'm interested to see how this series progresses. And like I said, if the characters will grow on me a little bit more, because they weren't necessarily my favorite. But yeah, overall, it was a solid start to this series. Probably my favorite of her the first books in the series. This is probably my favorite. But yeah, like I said, overall it was a decent read. It had some problematic aspects in it, but I was able to look past it because I did enjoy the storyline, the overarching storyline, and the mystery aspect in here. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments below if you've read this book and what you thought about it, and what you felt about some of the problematic aspects in here, because I know people mentioned them in their Goodreads reviews. So I'm curious to see what you guys thought about it, or if you're interested in reading it, or you have no desire to read it. I think it's always interesting to see people's perspectives, and especially for Sarah J Maas books, I think people either love her or they hate her. There's never really anyone in between. So it'll be interesting to see that play out in the discussions. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.